That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. And Jim, it seems we can't go a whole day without something happening provincially in politics in this province. Today, is it fair to say, I think out of nowhere, because we were expecting, I think we actually talked about it, Carl Blackburn would be one of those people who would want to run for leadership of the provincial Liberals. But today he posted on his Facebook page exactly the opposite, saying he will not be a candidate, nor will he stand for election in 2026. So your reaction to that?
On the one hand, it is not entirely surprising. Our listeners know, the public knows, that Mr. Blackburn had a health crisis prior to actually getting back into the race to lead the provincial Liberal Party. He has recovered, but the fact is, I think there's two things. I think on the one hand, leadership campaign is very, very demanding. Not just in terms of time and money, but in energy. You have to be always up. You have to always be there and be ready to deal, whether it's with Aaron Rand or some guy at a rally out in Shabugamu. It's like you have to be on all the time. And I think after a certain amount of time in your life, especially if you've jumped over a health challenge the way Mr. Blackburn did, because he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. We're told he's completely recovered, which is great. But on the other hand, I think you really become aware of the value of time. And I think that was one thing that factored in. But the other thing as well, Aaron, as I'm not trying to pretend that I'm some kind of great Karnak here. But when I was sending you my little list, and I say that it could be a field of one for the Liberal leader, I sent that in before Blackburn announced, because you just had a feeling, even yesterday, that there was this sense within the Quebec Liberal Party, we don't have a lot of time here, and we got to get this right, and we can't screw around. So, all ashore is going ashore. If you're not into this, if this is not your gig, please stand down. We need a united party. We don't need, because by definition, a leadership race is going to divide the party. And honestly, we've seen it before. Before we turn around, this is absolutely ridiculous. You can't have a leader of the Liberals acclaimed. Exhibit A, Dominique Anglade, during the pandemic, they had to find the new leader, and she ended up being acclaimed to the job. And now we are quite the opposite. It's like the anti-pandemic. We're in a situation where an election is looming. The party is in complete disarray, and it doesn't have the time to screw around with niceties, with long conferences, with very clever people saying, don't you worry, leave it to us. I think the rank and file have seen how leaving it to the experts has really blown up in this party's face. So I think, yes, they will have an accelerated race. That said, I think if it turns out that Charles Milliard, who is the only guy who has expressed an interest, I don't think he's declared officially yet. He's expressed an interest, but if he winds up being the only guy, they're going to have to do something, submit his name to the membership, all of the membership, and make sure that this is a party that is going to be going into October of 2026 united and really ready to fight on all fronts, because this is really something that this is really a matter of their survival at this point, Aaron. In those post 2018 days where they just got whooped by the CAQ and Francois Legault, there was the idea that we can always come back. But now there is the real feeling, I think, on the part of a lot of people, certainly a lot of our listeners, but also a lot of people who are Liberal supporters, Liberal members, who are looking at this and saying, man, this party has been shot full of holes and really badly over the past 6 months, and we're going into election. This is our star, our voice, our face, Marwa Rizki is gone, and we've got to turn around and try and mend fences with the regions who basically have turned their backs on us for the past 7 years, and we have all of 10 months to try and get that right. So this is where there is not a moment to be lost, as they say, and I think that really maybe by the new year will determine whether or not there's going to be more than one person in the leadership race. And quite frankly, though, I think if Mr. Milliard does turn around and declare, I think that will be, as they say, it.
The reason I brought up Carl Blackburn off the top to say a bit of a surprise seems to me we had mentioned his name even before Pablo had stepped down. There were, I think one of our analysts at least had mentioned that, he'd been kind of kicking the tires, Jim, and some of his people had as well.
You know what? I think sometimes when somebody says something and somebody else hears it and then somebody else repeats it, I was unaware of any real, from his camp, from him. I was unaware of, in fact, the only headline I saw attributed to him directly was when all this thing blew up, Carl Blackburn was the first of Rodriguez's opponents to turn around and say, now's the time to support the leader, now's the time for the party to be united. Which, and I'm not taking a swipe at Charles Milliard here, but what I am saying is that we'll notice that Charles Milliard has, the only person who's kept his mouth more tightly shut than Mario Risky and the Liberals is Charles Milliard, which suggests to me that honestly, yeah, he's going to go again. He nearly had it the last time, and I think there is a real sense within the party and within the public, and perhaps God help us within the electorate, that this is the guy. If there's anybody who you might concern, ticking off the Liberal box on your ballot for, it might be Charles Milliard. Yeah. I could be completely wrong. And listen, Aaron, we have only seen this guy in a leadership campaign. We haven't seen him, how can I put it, under combat conditions. We'll see how he holds up. Because and it's marvelous, he's not a politician. Yeah, that's really swell too. But guess what? You're about to be absolutely submerged in a political isolation tank for the next 10 months. Let's see how you can handle that, my friend. But all that said, I think right now, the way things are shaping up, we are looking at a coronation.
We shall see. The other thing I wanted to do, I don't know if you happened to catch Pierre Poilievre with Elias earlier in the day, Jim, but he had, was that a sigh?
Yeah.
Well, I just want to play one part of this, and that's the part where, and I'd not even thought of this until I guess he brought it up, this idea that somehow there needs to be an investigation, at least according to Pierre Poilievre, of how the federal Liberal Party might have been involved in what's happening here provincially. Listen to this.
So I'm asking Mark Carney and the federal Liberal Party to tell Quebecers the full extent of their involvement in the schemes that led to Mr. Rodriguez's election as leader of the Liberal Party of Quebec.
Okay, I hadn't heard that from anywhere before. What do you make of that?
What do I make of it? I make of it that Pierre Poilievre is, even if he wins his leadership review, is becoming the biggest political irrelevancy in Canada, and he needs something to get people's attention. So when because apart from everything else, I don't recall hearing squat from Pierre Poilievre when Francois Legault was using then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as a doormat, okay, to stomp on the rights of Anglophones and minorities in Quebec. And in fact, that seemed to dovetail very nicely with Mr. Poilievre's policy of, provinces can do what they want. That's how this country works, okay? Now, all of a sudden, it's, he's clutching his pearls over the fact that Mark Carney, and because we all know that the fluently bilingual Mark Carney is a veritable Machiavel when it comes to Quebec politics. Give me a break, okay? First of all,
fair enough.
Trying to link Pablo Rodriguez to the Carney Liberals is a bit of a stretch, above and beyond everything else. When I saw that is like there's a Hail Mary, a plea for help, call it what you will, okay? But even if Pierre Poilievre survives his leadership review next month, he will, as far as I'm concerned, continue to be the gift that keeps on giving and giving and giving to the federal Liberal Party of Canada. And as long as he's in charge, expect to see Liberal governments. I mean, we'll have evolved into higher life forms by the time we finally get rid of that party, as long as he's in charge.
All right, I want to get to one last thing. You have this note on your list today as well. You said, as the CAQ burns down, will defections begin? So beyond Christian Dubé yesterday, why do you think this may happen?
Because, he couldn't leave it alone. Yeah, did you read his post? Did you read Legault's post on social media today about how he took over the negotiations and essentially saved us and blah, blah, blah. The one hallmark of the Coalition Avenir Quebec, the one real legacy this collection of bigoted incompetence is going to leave on Quebec politics, Aaron, is the fact that they had the biggest sense of pettiness I have ever seen. Like, he couldn't leave it. He had to just put the dig in because, God forbid, Christian Dubé said yesterday, we were supposed to change the stuff. This stuff didn't get changed. Okay, it's not my business. But we had an objective and we didn't make it. So now he's turning around and saying, Christian has agreed, the mistakes were made and he's taken responsibility, and that's to his credit, blah, 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 blah. But the thing is, the house is on fire, Aaron. These people are cooked, okay? Never mind your supermajority. So the question now is, do you want to wrap the CAQ flag around you and go down with the ship along with Francois Legault and his Titanic-sized ego? Or do you want to make a career in provincial politics? Do you think you're going to make the move to one party or another? Theoretically, this is a coalition, Aaron. Theoretically, this caucus could move either to the PQ or to the Liberals, although, frankly, a lot of them seem to sort of have a thing for the PQ, like be PQ supporters. And when the wheels fell off the CAQ, the numbers for the PQ went up. But I'll pretend that this is a coalition. I'll pretend there are still Federalists in there, and I'll also pretend that maybe between now and October, some people are saying, maybe I want to stay here, and this is not the ticket to do it. So yeah, I will not be at all surprised if I see even people resign to sit as independents. So that way they'll be up for grabs as opposed to crossing the floor. They'll be up for grabs as a recruit in the next election. But we'll see what happens. But I really don't see this party, the cohesion of this party, lasting beyond perhaps this Easter.
So, Jim, I just want to touch on one point because in my head I'm trying to understand this. Right, you're a minister of health. In the case of Christian Dubé, you're assigned with this responsibility of trying to get this deal done. It doesn't work out. Then, as you just pointed out, you had Legault talking about, well, look, I finally managed to get it done. When you're the minister, Jim, from what you understand, don't you get your marching orders directly from the premier? Doesn't he say to you, look, this is what has to be accomplished in this bill. You go and you do it, put your nose down and get it done. And then when you can't get it done, he takes over and then does everything completely opposite from what he told you to do.
Well, listen, lest we forget, Christian Dubé took over from a health minister by the name of Danielle McCann, who got thrown under a bus by Legault because, you know what, she didn't quite live up to his expectations as the minister responsible for or the assistant minister responsible for the pandemic, because let's face it, it was mon oncle Francois who was in charge of the pandemic. So spare me, this is it. You're only a good friend and colleague to Francois Legault until you aren't.
Right. Which
is why one of the reasons why I'm suggesting that perhaps people are going to figure out, you know what, when this guy goes, I'm high and dry. So why do I want to hang around here? But honestly, I don't think Christian Dubé is going to hang around until next October. But believe you me, my friend, and our listeners, I don't think we've heard the last politically of Christian Dubé.
Oh, but he said he doesn't even want to run.
He may have a beautiful little, a charming little parting gift for Francois Legault before he finally leaves.
Which would be what?
Maybe just to blow off a little steam, because the guy has really done a good job of keeping the lid on. I'm told that in private, which is one of the problems with the negotiations, is Monsieur has how can I put it, a very determined streak, if you will. But I think that to be dealt with the way by Francois Legault, the way Christian Dubé was, a guy with a lot of flight time in the corporate world, cabinet minister, well established in the business community. And then to be sort of dismissed like, well, he made a lot of mistakes, but you know what, he admitted, so let's move on. It's like, you know what, I don't think you're going to get away with it, Legault.
Okay.
That's just my opinion, but I really get the impression that you treat a guy like Christian Dubé in that manner at your peril.
Interesting. All right, we leave it at that, Jim. Thank you so much. Are you here next week, by the way?
I never go. I can't leave.
You can't? Why can't you leave?
I'm trapped in this thing. I don't know what it is. There's a button and there's a combination, and they throw in food under the door.
All right.
I never leave, Aaron. I'm always on the show.
Try to survive the weekend. Jim Mennie, he'll be back with us. I'm here Monday and Tuesday. Jim, thank you. You have a good weekend.
You too.
Close your eyes, and you can hear the entire world come alive. 2026 FIFA World Cup is on, and you can stream it all live on TSN Radio. From the opening kickoff to the final celebration, every match, every moment. Listen to FIFA World Cup on TSN Radio.
Gives Canada the lift off.
Available on iHeartRadio.